Hey guys, welcome. I'm filming outside, so woo, yeah, my hair is all over the place and it's up because if not, it would be a disaster. Thank you for tuning in. This is Crafty Southern Home. I am Christine. I appreciate you guys so much. Y'all are awesome. Please keep watching. Throw me some more likes and some comments. We're going to be doing some makeovers with some Dollar Tree frames. They are absolutely gorgeous. Nice little spring projects and something small enough, you can put away and store and not have a whole big box of different stuff, but and then nice to pull out for some nice spring, I'm going to say, decor. So stay tuned with me all the way to the end, you guys. I appreciate it. And thumbs up, some likes, comments, and if you're new, please consider to subscribe. I am a small channel, still trying to grow, but I love sharing my crafts with you. That is my passion. Thank you guys so much. Alright, I am going to be showing you what I'm going to be using, and it's three different frames because two of those are the same. Those right there. One's like a suede, two have like a wood look to it, and then it's this shiny silver. I am using Drop Cloth by Dixie Belle, Apothecary by DIY, and that's Black Caviar, or just Caviar, it's a black by Dixie Belle. I'm using a couple molds, some rub and buff. My wood box there, I didn't open it to show you, but you guys, that's just some watercolors that I have. And then I'm going to be going into some stamps. It's a Birds and Bees by IOD, and it's the Monarch Collection by Redesign with Prima. And then lastly, I'm going to show you this beautiful sheet of wallpaper that I found at Dollar Tree. All right, our first project is going to be so super easy. I love the feel of this frame. I haven't seen those there before. And like I said, it's like a suede feel. So I'm just removing everything. And I am just going to take this. Y'all, look at how beautiful this is. I forgot the name of the back. It's got the little name printed on the back, but it's so beautiful. So I just figured out I wanted that largest bird in there. So I'm simply just tracing around the glass itself. I'll cut that out. I did end up actually peeling the back of the wallpaper and actually placing it onto that backer. Y'all, look how gorgeous. How easy was that for some framed art? Project 2, I'm just going to take one of the little frames that had some texture to it. Kind of looks like a wood look to it. I'm using my DIY Apothecary paint. I just think this is a gorgeous spring summer color. And I did like 1.5 coats. I kind of let some of that wood look shine through, and I did seal that. So I'm coming in with watercolor. So this is just a sheet of watercolor paper. I tore it out of my little booklet and I cut it to size with the frame. And now I'm just taking some water at first just to get it wet. The watercolor itself goes on better, spreads a little bit easier if your project your backer is wet to begin with. I am not an expert, I promise you guys. I've not used watercolor all that much, but I'm just thinking here earth, the greenery, the sky, and the sunlight. So I'm just using some bluish green, blue, and some yellowish just to kind of get a backer to it. And this is totally optional. You could just do it all blue, one color, whatever, just leave it plain. But I wanted a background to my stamp. So I'm just going to set that aside, let that dry, and then I'm coming back in with the Monarch collection, and you can see that off to the side there, and that is redesigned with Prima. And I'm going to be using a butterfly stamp on it. Y'all, look how gorgeous those stamps are. Now, I'm not using a backer. I'm actually just going to use my hand, and that's just for placement so that I have more control of the project. Now, my ink that I'm using, it's just a blank pad from Hobby Lobby, and the ink itself is IOD, and it's just in the color black. Now I just want to make sure that I stamp it real well because I want it to show. It's got to show in that background. So I'm just going to ink it up real well, and then I'm just going to take my placement, carefully put that down, keep one steady hand on it, move your other hand around, and then switch hands and move it around and pull it straight up. And that's just going to protect you from having a lot of bleeding around the edges. So we want it as crisp as it can be, and this is going to be the first stamp of 2. So this is a new little method that I've tried before, and I've not shown you guys. So I hope you'll try this project. I love it. So now when my ink is dry, I'm coming back in with my watercolors. I'm just using a combination of some yellow, some orange, and some like orangish yellow. And it really doesn't matter. You can go outside of the lines a little bit. It really doesn't matter. You could go one solid color if you want to. But I like the variation, and I was thinking kind of a monarch butterfly. So that's why I chose the colors that I did. So I'm just going to continue to take my paintbrush and go all around the butterfly and fill in as much as possible, even on his body. And like I said, just do some shading and some different colors to mix in. Okay, once your paint is dry, you just want to make sure it dries real well. You're going to ink up your stamp again, and make sure again that you ink it very well. You want a lot of ink on this. And then you're going to carefully line it up on top of your stamp and your painting. And then again, just make sure that you take one hand with pressure, hold it, take your other hand, move it around, and then lift it straight up. And you guys, I want y'all to look at how vibrant the colors are on this one. Let me know what you think of this project. Our third project is using the other wood look frame, and we are going to paint it one good coat with Dixie Belle drop cloth, and then we're going to be coming in with a redesign with Prima mold, and that is Elegant Borders. I love this mold. I'm going to be using the one that kind of looks like tree bark to me. I think that's what it's supposed to be. So it's to that left there, left hand side, and I'm going to be using my DOS air dry clay. So you want to dust your mold first with cornstarch, and that just keeps it from sticking, so that once you flip it over and flex your mold, your air dry clay will come out. So I just kind of roll it up like a snake, kind of get it warm, and then I'm just going to press that into my mold. And I use my art palette knife to just level off the back, because I can't do that real well with my fingers. So I'm pressing it real good into my mold, and then I'm going to flip it over and then get my mold out once I've taken and gotten a smooth back to it. I did end up making, I don't know if it was 3 or 4 of this, but I'm going to go all the way around that frame, so I need to make at least 3, maybe 4 to get it to fit in there. Now, if you flip over your molds and they do come apart, which lots of times with these delicate pieces they will, you can always piece them back together, so I don't never let that worry me too much, especially with something it's got much detail as this does. It more than likely at some point going to split. So, and I think the first one did here. You're going to see me, I'm going to use 2 pieces. But like I said, that's fine because you can push them together and take your finger and make them combine again. So you're just going to have to do a little bit of touch up there. I always use my Tight Bond Quick and Thick glue,
And I just spread that with my finger, and then I'm going to place that where I want it on the frame. And then keep in mind that I'm coming around with the other. So I am going to take the edges once I get to piece them together there. I do overlap them, and I'm going to use my art palette knife to cut an angle and kind of miter it. And then I take my fingers and form those together to make it look like those edges came together. And then we're going to go all the way around the frame. And then I'm coming in with a very soft bristle brush, because you got to make sure when you paint these molds that you get into all the detail, and that's very hard to do. So you want a soft brush to get in there. And I do paint mine when they're wet. So I'm going to let it sit on the frame just a few minutes to let that tape bond start adhering real well. And it does not take long with that glue at all. That's why it's called Quick and Thick, y'all. And then I'm just going to start painting. And I have found that if I paint when it's wet, it does reduce the cracking on it. So you're going to get a little bit of cracking on these when you're using the clay on these molds, but if you paint them when they're wet, it does help reduce that. So I'm just going to come around and paint my frame again and the mold completely.
And I'm just coming in with an extra piece of cardboard. This is going to be what I'm going to glue down my rice paper to. So I'm just cutting that out according to the size. And then look at this beautiful rice paper. I think I got this from Decoupage Central. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it is. And it's just got a bunch of script writing on it. So I just got to decide which one I want to show in the frame. And then I'm just using my Elmer's glue stick to put that down. Because I'm gluing to cardboard, a paper surface, I don't want to use a wet decoupage medium. So that's when I really pull out that glue stick. And that works perfect. I just use my hand to lay that out and make sure I have good contact. And I did not have any bubbles or wrinkles with this paper. So I'm just going to cut that down to size. And then I'm coming in with the largest bee that's on my IOD Birds and Bees stamp. I'm just going to make sure he fits. I'm going to ink him up with my black IOD stamp. And again, because I'm putting on a surface that's got a lot of color to it, a lot of dark color to it, I just want to make sure that I ink the stamp real well. And then I'm just going to hover that over where I want to place it, because once you put it down, that ink is down there. And then just make sure to have good hold on one hand and take your other hand and spread that ink out. And I'm not going to do anything else with this one because I think it's beautiful with just the stamp on there. Y'all let me know, what do you think about this? But then I do come back with clear wax by DIY on my frame as a sealer. And then I decided the frame needed a little bit more color. So I'm coming in with Grunge Gray. That's Best Dang Wax from Dixie Belle. And again, I'll leave you guys some links to some Dixie Belle products. That's through Amazon. It's not going to charge you anymore if you click through my links. It's just Amazon's going to give me a small thank you. And I'd appreciate it so much if you guys would look at my links in the description box and see if there's anything you would like to order. So I'm just going to do a coat on that, wipe off any excess, and then put my frame together, and this one is done. last project, you guys, and thank you for hanging in there with me. So this is going to be, of course, the silver frame. That's our last little frame we're going to use. And I am just mixing up this is just Dixie Belle Caviar. That's just their black paint. And it kind of looks, it's kind of giving a grayish tone here. That's why I was confused when I was looking at it. But it's just black. Now this little silver frame, I had to do 2 coats. And I did use my hairdryer in between. But that silver was a little hard to cover up. Not going to lie. So I did 2 coats of that. And then I'm going to dry in between with my... you can use a heat gun. I just use a hairdryer. And then I am coming in with my aviary mold. This is from Redesign with Prima. Y'all, the designs on there are so gorgeous. And I'm going to do some resin. Now, the reason why I'm using resin is because it's going to be hanging off of this frame. So I want to make sure that I have a good, durable surface to work with. And I'm using Amazing Casting resin. This will dry white, so you do have to paint it. And it's just going to be 1 part of A, 1 part of B. I measured them in my little cups, and then I'm just mixing it into a regular little cup. You can mix it in whatever. Now normally I use the cups that are like silicone, so that they have the spout, but just be real careful. Now you can see this mold is very detailed. It's not a very large surface that you're covering there. It's got a lot of details, so just pour very easy. If you run it over a little bit, it's not going to matter. But you just want to be easy and try to stop whenever you get right at the top of it. And sometimes I use a toothpick or a craft stick to kind of move that resin around. Make sure that all your surfaces in there, that all your divots are covered, if that makes sense. Because sometimes with your leaves and all, you have points and you just want to make sure you get all the way to the edge. Now you can see it already turning up there, and it's going to turn white. It takes about 10 minutes for it to completely set up. And then you're just going to flex your mold, turn it over, and those are going to pop out. Now, usually when I do resin, I'll just do a large quantity and cover my whole mold, my set at one time. And then I'll just put those in my stash so I can pull them out at any time to use them. I'm certainly not going to use all of them for this project. Now, if you have any resin that went over or it filled edges that's not supposed to, I just use my little craft knife, my X-Acto knife, and cut off that excess, and that works fine. So I just picked out this lovely little tree branch with the flowers on it, a little bird, and then a little flower, and I'm going to use my Titebond Quick and Thick and put it on my surface where it's going to make contact, and then glue that down to my frame and let that completely dry. And again, the reason why we're not using clay for this, air dry clay, is because if somebody bumped the edge of this frame, and this frame is skinny, then that surface could break. So this resin is going to be a hardy, good, strong surface so that it's not going to break. And it's going to look like that it's been part of this frame. And using resin, that's why you want to use resin, is for the durability of it. And then it just comes out gorgeous anyhow. So then I'm just coming back in with that caviar, and I'm going to paint these surfaces, and I do paint the back of them as well. And then I'm just touching up around my frame because, again, you could kind of see some of that silver even after 2 coats. So I'm just going to coat everything real well, let that dry, and then I am coming in with my rub and buff. Y'all know I love me some rub and buff, and that is Gold Leaf. That's the one that I just turned to over and over again. And I'm just going to go across my resin pieces just to make them pop. And y'all are going to see what a difference it's going to make from just them being painted to them having the gold leaf on them. Something to just bring out that detail so it doesn't get lost with the paint. And I did end up going around the entire frame, just touching here and there with the rub and buff, just so that it doesn't look flat compared to my resin pieces. Now I'm going in my watercolor booklet, and I'm just going to cut down a piece to size to the frame, coming back in with the IOD birds and bees stamps. And I'm going to grab this large bird. I think this is an oriole. I'm not sure. It's got a little short beak. Y'all tell me if you know what bird that is, but I'm thinking more line of like an oriole. So I'm just coming in with the black IOD ink. I know it's not in an IOD pad. That's just a plain ink pad from Hobby Lobby, and it's got my IOD ink in it. IOD ink is a permanent ink, and that's just what I prefer to use for my projects. And then again, you're just going to make sure of your placement, kind of hover, then put it down, and then keep one hand firmly on it, move your other hand around, and then switch up. Make sure everything's transferred good to your sheet. I'm not going to paint the sheet or anything. I'm just going to leave that bird and put him in the frame. And this is our last project. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Again, if you're new, please consider to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it so much. You guys are awesome. Y'all have been commenting on my videos and sharing with me, and I appreciate that. That's what I want, is I want us to have a good little friendship, so to speak. I enjoy you guys, and I thank you. I am so blessed, and y'all have a blessed week.